Good morning. Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated in loving memory to Nishmat, their beloved son, Moshe Chaim ben David Shlomo Yitzchak, Alav Shalom, whose yahrzeit is on the 9th of Elul. Also, Breakfast in the Class is dedicated in honor of the birthday of Keter Roshenu, our father, Alfred Oheb Shalom Shlita, Elkanah ben Puran Rivka, Baruch Hashem, Bezat Hashem, Ad Me'av Esrim, perfect health, happiness, success, Beracha, Ad V'lidai, by his children and in-laws, Sapir and Daniel of Shalom, Julia and Avi Abadi, Jennifer and Jeffrey Chira. Breakfast in the Class is also dedicated in honor of Shmuel Obadiah, Samuel Obadiah from Panama, becoming a bar mitzvah. Today is his first day as a Jewish man. May he merit continued growth in Torah and mitzvot from his parents, Moises and Gloria. Siman Tov Mabruk. Also dedicated in loving memory of Ezra Sassoon, Alav Shalom, Nishmat Ezra Saleh ben Valentine, for his fourth Askara by his wife Vicky and son Joseph Sassoon. Of course, a breakfast in the class dedicated in honor of Simon Mosera and his birthday from his family. Happy birthday. The year of breakfast in the class is dedicated in loving memory and Linishmat Ruth Bat Adela Orfali, sponsored by family for Refuah Shlema Chana Matzim Fega and Eliyahu Shimon Mazal Fortuné. And the breakfast and the cold brew is sponsored by David Yash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to good today and every day. I want to take an extra minute to give a tremendous Chazak Baruch to our Daniel S. Loeb Torah Center silver donor Ronan Kamenitz for the Refuah Shlema of Chaya Bar Haviva and for the release of all the hostages and victory for Am Yisrael over enemies and all the brachot you could ever imagine or desire in your life, Be'ezat Hashem. Please only answer Amen if you are listening to this live. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה baro. Okay, let us begin. The Pasuk tells us an interesting line. The Pasuk says, if you're wandering on the street and you see the sheep or the ox of your friend, nidachim baderech, lo tuchal hitalem, you can't turn away. Or elsewhere it says v'hitalam tamem, and you will turn away, etc., etc. But the point of the Gemara brings is that a person has an obligation when they see a lost object on the road that has a siman, to pick it up and to return it to its owner. Okay, so this is a very important mitzvah. It's relevant, by the way, all the time. By the way, if you're seeking Hashev Tishivem, the mitzvah of Hashavat Aveidah, returning a lost object, one of the very best places to fulfill that mitzvah is in a Bet Knesset. Because people all the time are leaving things behind, and it's quite easy to figure out in a Bet Knesset whose object, where that lost object came from. But the Ben Ish Chai asks a very interesting question. He says, what is this Hashev Teshivem? Return, you shall surely return. Why do we have a double language of return, you shall return, when it comes to the mitzvah of Hashavat Aveidah, returning a lost object? Says the Ben Ish Chai something fascinating. He says a person might think that when it comes to Hashavat Aveidah, it's one of those things which is fairly simple. There's no real laws attached to it. Find a lost object, give it back. Just the opposite of finders keepers, losers weepers, right? By us, it's finders keepers, losers reapers. They still reap the benefit of having the object, and now you have to bring it home for them. Okay, now, what's interesting is that if you open up a Gemara, the Gemara in Baba Kama talks all about the laws of returning a lost object. In fact, there's an entire chapter called Excellent. Elu misiyot shelo, elu hayav leachriz. These are the lost objects, or found objects, that belong to you, and these are you obligated to announce. What does it mean? What's the obligation to announce? You find the lost object, you don't know who it is. The obligation was to announce, to put up signs, to send out a WhatsApp message. Does anyone know anyone who lost this koracha, this ring, whatever it might be? Okay. So, says the Ben Ish Chai, if you look at the Gemara in Ta'anit records an amazing story with Rabbi Hiya. What happens? He comes outside one day, outside of his house, and he sees that someone has put down 2 chickens. Now, I don't know how one knows the difference between chickens that were put down and chickens, not as in, not like that, chickens that were placed in front of your house, or chickens that happened to wander up to your house from the wild. I don't know how you don't know that those chickens are not living their best life out on some great adventure. I'm not really sure how Rabbi Chia knew that they were domesticated chickens. Maybe that's a thing that if you live in a farm, you're able to tell the difference. I'm not sure. But Rabbi Chia was able to know for sure that the chickens were placed there. Anyway, his wife says to him, chickens are outside, what should we do? He says, well, they're not ours, we can't keep them. You can't eat from the eggs of the chickens either. These don't belong to us. Bring them out into the backyard, put them in their own chicken pen, and we'll hold on to them until such time that we discover the owner, and the owner will give us a siman. What's a siman? A siman is a sign that you could give illustrating that this object belongs to you. So as an example, let's say I was to lose this object over here. This is the magnet on the back of my phone that carries my credit cards and allows me to never have anything in my pocket, which makes me a very, very happy man. I don't know if any of you is also averse to having things in your pocket. I have not carried cash for like 5 years. It gets me in a lot of trouble, especially in Deal, because my favorite store in Deal has to be the Hot Bagel Bakery, and for some inexplicable reason, they still will only sell you bagels for cash. Wild. Okay, regardless, my friends, if I was to lose this object, I could tell you, come take a look at it in the video, that in the top right-hand and left-hand corner, the little plastic is a little bit scratched off. So how would I know that unless it was mine? I could tell you as an example that the back of, underneath the little thing that comes up, it says pop socket, and the top looks like carbon, like that. So I could give you specific signs illustrating that I know. I could tell you how many cards were in it. I don't know why I had to go through that whole rigmarole. There's a cards that actually have my name in it in the back, but I was giving you an example where that was not immediately evident. So the halakha is that you have to be able to give a siman. What happens if a guy says, listen, come on, it's mine. I'm telling you, it's mine. You're not allowed to return it. You're not allowed to return it. Why? Because it might not be theirs. So the point is, says the pasuk, it should be by you ad derosh achicha oto, until your brother comes derosh to ask for it back. Okay. So Reb Chia tells his wife, put them in the pen in the back. Says the Gemara on Ta'anit. What happens? Chickens just chilling. They have nothing to do. So what do? Start having babies. Eggs come. His wife says, oh, they had eggs. Would you like what's it called? An omelet. If you want, I could go down to the Hot Bagel Bakery. Maybe I could get some cash, and then they'll sell me a bagel. Right? If there's any left, because they always close early, instead of making more bagels. What a novel idea. Anyway, so my friends, what does Rabbi Chia tell his wife? Can't eat the eggs. Eggs are not ours either. What happens after a while? Chickens sit on the eggs. That's what chickens do. Eggs hatch. That's what eggs do. And now they have more chickens. What are the chickens doing? If you're not killing them, making more chickens. More and more and more and more and more. Very few people know that this Gemara is the beginning of something that has become very, very widespread in the world. Kentucky Fried. No, the point is, there was tons and tons of chickens. Eventually, there's no more room. They don't have enough space in their farm for all the chickens. This is months and years go by. And the family is faithfully taking care of generations of chickens. Eventually, she says there's no more room. He says, I have a great idea. Let's sell all the chickens and we'll buy goats. Right? It costs a lot of chickens to sell to buy one goat. And they buy a few goats. However many goats they could buy for all the chickens. What happens with the goats? She biflage. The goats now are getting it on and having children. The guy's got a pen full of goats. Eventually, some guy is walking by the house and he knocks on the door. He says, something? I think this is the house. Years ago, I was walking past. I put down my 2 chickens and I forgot them here. And Rabbi Chia, with a big smile, but the biggest smile was, of course, Rabbi Chia's wife. She's like, Dachilak. Some people are hoarders. They don't mind keeping things for the odd chance that you'll ever use that again. I still have actual phone wires. We don't actually even really have a phone. I mean, we have a phone, but we don't really have a phone. But I have 9,000 phone wires in case one day I will be prepared. If cell phones go out of business and everyone will need it, I'll be a man, right? So there's some people like that. They just hold on to things. Some people like to get rid of everything. I just hope to high heavens that Rabbi Chia's wife was not the second kind. And this was Shalom Bayit issue from day one. Either way, the guy says, I have your chickens. Give me a siman. The guy says, oh, one of the chickens had underneath his left armpit, a beauty mark that looked like Sammy Sosa. Okay, fantastic. No problem. I got you. Come, let me show you the chickens. Takes him through the house to the back, and the guy has now a whole flock of goats. He says, no, I didn't lose goats. I lost the chickens. The guy said, yeah, but what do you think the chickens were going to do? They had babies, and we took care, and now this and everything's here. Says the Ben Ish Chai something beautiful. He says sometimes the person loses something. So you have a mitzvah of Hashavat Aveidah. But sometimes the nature of taking care of that object will mean that over time, the thing you returned is not the thing that they lost. Hashev tishivim. Give back chickens. If it takes them a long time, ad derosh achicha oto, says the Ben Ish Chai, you might return goats. Fascinating. Now, by the way, what Rabbi Hia did is not the halakha. It's not the halakha. Because technically what he could have done was evaluated the chicken, exactly how expensive the chicken was, taken the chicken, transferred it into money, and then held the money for him. He could have done that too. Just because you lost chickens doesn't mean I have to become a farmer. Right? And that's what happened. He's feeding them, all of a sudden he's buying chicken feed, he's cleaning out the chicken coop. The mitzvah is to return a lost object. Not only that, the halakha is that for a big Talmid Chacham, the pasuk says, "Lo tuchal leitalem," says the Gemara. V'talamta mehem pe'amim she'ata mitalem. There are times when you're allowed to turn away. When zaken ve'eno lefi chodo. When you're a big Talmid Chacham, and imagine as an example, I'll just give you a funny example. Imagine you have a big Talmid Chacham. Anyway, he's walking down the street, and what does he find? He finds a giant boom box. Anyway, the button on the boom box is broken, and it's playing I don't know, who's the latest rapper in the rapper community? You guys got to help me here. I'm back from the old days. Huh? Travis Scott is a new guy? Okay. It's blasting. I'm assuming he's not so clean. Imagine the guy's car dropping. All of a sudden you see Rav Chaim Kanievsky walking down Fifth Avenue with a boom box, blasting. Hazid, he's trying to turn a lost object, but it looks like he went rogue. He went off the reservation. That's zaken ve'ena lefi chvodo. It's not for his kavod to do this. It doesn't look right. It's not appropriate. The halacha is he'll be patur. Rabbi Chia is a big tzaddik, big Talmid Chacham. Is it lefi chvodo to raise these chickens? To become is it his honor? My friends, so technically he would have been patur. So why didn't Rabbi Chia take advantage of that opportunity? The answer is, Al Chachamim looked at life in a very different way. For him, to become a farmer, to take care of chickens, to clean up chicken poop, okay? Sorry for saying it while you're eating, right? Was not a lack of kavod. You know why? Because he didn't see chicken poop. What did he see? He saw mitzvah. He saw taking care of someone's lost object. Sometimes, to do a mitzvah, you think it's not kavod for me to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to be like this. But actually, a tzaddik looks at the mitzvah and sees the mitzvah and not the effort. Sees the mitzvah, not the thing, which is the lack of kavod. Sorry? That's not because of kavod, right? That's not because of kavod. That's because it's a isur for him. Okay. Now, my friends, so we're looking at this and we see hashev tishivim, that there's sometimes that the lost object is not the thing that you return. You're actually returning something else entirely. I want to give one more example of this beautiful concept. There's a child walking down the streets in Bnei Brak. All of a sudden, what does he find? Money on the street. He does a little bit of checking, tries to figure out, whose money it is, and they work out that the money fell from none other than Rav Chaim Kanievsky, who was inexplicably walking down the street with a boombox. No, I'm joking. Okay? They find out that the money comes from the Gadol Ador. Unbelievable. The kid now runs to the house of Rav Chaim Kanievsky and he says, Moreno v'Rabbeinu. Rav Chaim Kanievsky says, Bua. He says, no, I don't want a bracha. It's like, I'm here on other business, okay? I have Aveidah, lost object. The rabbi lost the money, I found the money. Rav Chaim refuses to take the money. He says, why? Matzah ma'ot mefuzarot. Person finds money, b'rshut rabim. Halacha is, hare elu shelo. Belongs to you. Why? Because you're mityaesh immediately. That's what the Gemara says. And you know that someone else is going to find it, and there won't be simanim, so I gave up hope. So who owns this money now? Sorry? Finder. He's a kid. Says Rav Chaim, a child is unable to be mochel. Once the kid acquires the money, he can't be mochel on the money. If he gives it back to me and he's not obligated, said Rav Chaim, I'm taking the child's money and he can't be mochel to give it to me of his own free will because he don't have free will. Rav Chaim refuses to take the money. His father, the stapler, Gaon, not to be confused with a stapler, that's something else. Someone once asked me, what did the stapler have to do with staplers? I said, it's not, he came from a city. That was why it was called, okay? The Kihilat Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky. So, his father there, the stapler says to him, you should take the money from the child. He says, why? He's not mochel. Listen to what he said, genius. The Kihilat Yaakov told his son, Rav Chaim, he told him, if you take the money from the kid, the whole Bnei Brak will find out that this kid found the money of Rav Chaim, and Rav Chaim didn't want to take it, and the kid was mitakesh to give him his lost object back. Listen to this because it's brilliant. He says everyone's going to find out that the kid gave the money, and everyone in Bnei Brak will say about this child that he's a tzaddik, that he has great midot. Do you know what kind of value that has? Far more than the value of the couple of dollars that he found, shekel that he found, is getting this good name in the whole city. So therefore, even if the child himself is not mochel, we could be omed that he would be mochel, that it would be better for him to be able to take it than to be able to, It turns out that Rav Chaim Kanievsky, when he took back the lost object, he wasn't taking back money. What was he taking back? He was taking back giving the child a Shem Tov, which is a wild idea. I want to add one last piece to this. Al Chachamim explain a fascinating insight. The Torah mentions V'hashevoto lo, and you shall return him, hashevoto lo. You shall return him to him. Normally you understand that it's just a way that the pasuk is referring to the lost object. We wouldn't know why a lost object would be masculine as opposed to feminine or non-gendered, maybe a binary pronoun for a lost object, okay? But my friends, the halacha is, says the Chachamim, that included in the mitzvah of returning a lost object to someone is returning a person to themselves. To save a person's life is to return his life to him. To save a person's neshama is to return his soul to him. And the Chachamim learn from the mitzvah of Hashavat Aveidah that we have an obligation to return a lost neshama to its place. Perhaps the soul of a child to his father in heaven. Perhaps a person's own soul to themselves if they've strayed from the path. Now this is a famous idea v'hashevoto lo. Meshech Chochmah talks about it extensively. If your friend your brother has lost something, he's lost his connection with Hashem, he's lost his neshama, and you shall bring him el toch betecha, into your home, ad derosh achicha oto, until he needs his own, until he's doresh, his own neshama, says the Meshech Chochmah. But the original dirasha of Hashevoto lo is from Hazal in the time of the Gemara, that you have an obligation to return a lost soul to its owner, to the person, to be mekarev him, to reach out to him. That's already from the Gemara. Now listen to this. It turns out then, according to the Ben Ish Chai, something remarkable. Because if we're also talking about returning someone's neshama to them, to giving them a Shabbat experience in your home, to letting them feel the warmth of Yahadut, the wisdom of Torah, oftentimes what they lost is not what's being returned to them. What Judaism did the person lose? He lost the Judaism that was dry. He walked away from a Judaism that was judgmental. He walked away from a Judaism that was shallow, that didn't meet his intellectual expectations. He learned as a child in the first grade. That's what he understands Judaism to be. It's never going to work if the Judaism you try to return to him is the Judaism he ran away from in the first place. Says the Ben Ish Chai, Hashev tishivem. Sometimes the thing you return to somebody is not at all the object that they lost. Now, if that's the case, my friends, I want to ask and challenge the people that are here and who will listen to this all around the world. You know, we have an object that's been lost to its owner. It's an object that you could find in every city, in every community. There's someone who's lost their way. There's someone who's no longer interested. There's someone who's hurt. There's someone who's angry. My friends, imagine if instead of a few rabbis, a few outreach organizations, imagine if instead of a few yeshivot that were out there, you have a lot of yeshivot for young kids, a lot of yeshivot for teenagers, but there aren't many yeshivot for a guy who's 25 and 35 and 45 and 55 and 65. What if instead of the rabbis and the rebbitzins and the yeshivot, which are few in number in staff, what if all of us were drafted for this mitzvah? The mitzvah of doing this is not for a rabbi. If the Torah put it in the Torah, it's for every single Jew. Now I know all of you on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur are going to think about the mitzvot that you didn't do this year. I'm going to ask you and challenge you. How many Jews did you bring back to their Judaism this year? How many Jews did you invite to a Shabbat that sparked something in their soul? Unlike the Shabbats that they ran away from, that were persecuting them and horrible and sitting in the shul for hours in the table and can't use my phone, can't drive in a car. How many Shabbats did you introduce to someone like that's life? We're living right now in the city here in a metropolis of Jews. We're living in a country where since October 7th, many Jews have woken up to their Jewish identity, and they would be open, even if they never were, to an experience. Last night, I was at a wedding, and I met a young woman. She's not Jewish. She's friends through work with some of the people in the community. I know she's going to hear this today. And somehow she found breakfast in the class, and she does not miss a single day. And she said, you know, I would love to come to a synagogue. I love the lessons. I love what I'm hearing. It really starts my day the right way. I'd love to come to synagogue to see what it's like, this experience that you guys have when you're praying. And I was thinking to myself, when I was speaking to her, and I actually suggested it. I said, you know, a long time ago, they came to Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu, a group of non-Jews, and they said, you know, we would love to learn about the mitzvot of non-Jews. People don't know that. There's mitzvot for non-Jews. You know that? 7 mitzvot of Bnei Noach, with a lot of detail, by the way. And Judaism is the only religion on earth that actually does not obligate you to be part of it in order to get into Gan Eden. Do you know that? Every other religion, if you're not Christian, you're cooked in their eyes. In Islam, if you're not Muslim, no heaven. The only kafir, right? The only way you're getting in to heaven in every other religion is if you're part of that religion. Judaism alone, we don't proselytize. We don't save your soul. You know why? Because your soul don't need saving. You could stay in your lane, do these mitzvot, and get a portion in Gan Eden. So they came to Chama Mordechai Eliyahu and they said, who's going to teach us these mitzvot? The only ones who know about them is the Jews. And he said, you're absolutely right. So he wrote the first sefer for non-Jews. I don't know if that appears in Eichler's, by the way. Maybe that's not in Mekor. They should sell that in Barnes & Noble's, Alav Shalom. Right? Right next to the self-help section. Right? I don't know if it's in English, but what a mitzvah would be for someone to take on that book and to translate it into every language. What a zechut that would be. Holy cow. So I said maybe we should start a breakfast in the class, or brunch in the class for a non-Jewish audience. I don't know. I said, I don't know if I have time. Maybe I can help set it up. But you know what I was struck by? Here's someone who's not Jewish, asking, reaching out, saying, I would love to come to shul. If that's what she could say to me, how many Jews are there out there in your office that you meet on the street, you're standing next to in the line, what's it called, in the airport? It's always that guy, he sees you with a kippah. He's like, shalom. And he's like, gives you the, yeah. Because the thing that you are, I am. My favorite is when it's just the most completely random thing. They'll see me, they're like, you're Jewish? I'm like, yes. And the guy's like, Baruch atah Adonai Elokeinu melech haolam, borei ha'piri haaretz. I'm like, close. Not bad. 95%, that's not bad, right? They make a random bracha. People are keen to share that they're Jewish. There's a kinship. My friends, that means that there's a spark there. Every Jew wants to come to shul. Sometimes they don't know it. Every Jew wants to keep Shabbat. Sometimes they don't know it. And it's the mitzvah for us to return it to them. But sometimes, in order to return a lost object, you have to give them back something that's very different than what they lost. And if we did that, Hashem would bless us, Be'ezat Hashem, to be able to have our lost object back. We know in every single time when you do a mitzvah, what's the payback? The sachar is midah keneged midah, measure for measure, right? You get back what you gave out. Hashem will reward you with your lost object. What's your lost object? Maybe the soul of your children that's gone away from the Shabbat table. Maybe your own soul, which is not connecting in certain areas. Maybe the Beit HaMikdash that we've lost. Maybe Eretz Yisrael that we pray every single day for. Tehezena enenu b'shuvecha l'tzion. Maybe we could say a chidush b'shuvecha, not only when he goes back, but when he returns this lost object to all of us. Our homeland, our Beit HaMikdash with the coming of Mashiach. B'mhera v'yamenu. Amen. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen v'amen. Rabbi